Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us. This month, we're leaning into a theme that feels especially important as we enter the first part of winter. We're looking at pacing and prioritizing. So, winter brings such a natural shift. There's less light, colder temperatures, and a collective slowing down that happens, whether we allow it or not. And it's a season that invites rest, reflection, and restoration. And yet, December often becomes a month where we take on the most gatherings, the most obligations, the most expectations. So today we really want to explore why this time of year asks us to move differently and why pacing ourselves is essential for our mental health and well-being. We'll talk about capacity and what it looks like and what it means to fill our cups instead of pouring from an empty one. And most importantly, we're going to be asking one guiding question, which is how do we want to feel? And what would it look like to actually prioritize that feeling? So, whatever that feeling is, maybe peace, connection, joy, steadiness, is what our brain really remembers and is what's going to be anchoring us. So, we're going to chat more about this, but today is all about giving ourselves permission to slow down, tune in, and choose what matters most. All right, so let's dive in. So, today I am joined by our other path guides. First off, I'm Megan. I'm a licensed professional counselor as well as a board certified art therapist, and also a Journal to the Self facilitator. And joined today with Amanda, who is a certified yoga therapist and trauma-informed yoga teacher who blends mind-body practices and Thai body work to help people reconnect with themselves. Her approach is very gentle, grounded, and centered on supporting people through life transitions. And as well as Patrick. Patrick's a licensed clinical social worker and mindfulness provider with over 15 years experience. He integrates therapy, nature-based practices, and trauma-informed care to help people slow down, tune in, and move through life with steadiness. So thank you both for being here with me and exploring this really important theme together. And again, right, this month we're talking about pacing and prioritizing. And just kind of want to start with what you all think about what made this feel like the right theme for December and for the start of winter.
Well, it's no secret that people feel the pressure. As you already mentioned, this is a time where we almost feel pulled in a couple different directions of, aren't we supposed to slow down? I really want to slow down, but maybe outside messaging or our perception of the messaging tells us we have to go, we have to do it all. So we just felt like this was, or I felt like this was a really important thing just to give people permission. Uh, Not that we need it, but sometimes
Mhm.
it's helpful just to hear, oh, yeah, I can slow down and not only not take on things and have the opportunity to enjoy myself, but actually get what I want and get more out of the things that I choose to.
Yeah, I think in the we cram so much stuff into such a short period of time when the holidays come around and when we think about this time of year being so busy in our lives, but outside and in nature it's very slow and it's this tuning inward period of time. So trying to almost mirror that pace of nature and really bring in a little bit of slowing down and in tuning inward can help us figure out what we want to get out of the season and maybe even going forward. So it kind of helps us kind of like fortify our foundation for what is to come in the next year.
Mhm. Yeah, and Amanda, you're saying how winter, right, kind of naturally asks us to slow down and kind of invites that space for us. Um, what does the season invite you into personally? Either maybe emotionally, physically, or spiritually? What are you all finding?
Yeah, personally, I tend to do more of the things that I find I don't have time to do the rest of the year. I bake a lot. I do a lot of crafts. It's because I'm inside, so I don't like being cold, so I'm not the person that's going to be out and about all winter long. I'm going to be inside. I'm going to make stuff. I'm going to craft. I'm going to do all of the things that I don't necessarily get a chance to do throughout the year because of the go, go, go nature of like summer. I want to be outside as much as possible. I feel like there's a little bit more of this creativity that kind of comes in through nature. And when you think about it, nature is doing the same thing. It's just a very internal process. There's a lot of composting and like fertilizing going on in the soil because everything's kind of returned down into the ground. And that's a process of creation, a process of like preparing for growth when spring comes. So I just like doing kind of those more reflective type practices. It's not always that way. I get really like bummed out by the dark, long days. But the more I tune into those practices and those like activities that really like feel fun for me and feel creative, it feels like I'm still connected to that sense of aliveness, even if it's more of an inward journey.
Yeah.
For me, it's it all cracked into one. I noticed that spiritual connection of spiritual meaning something bigger than me, right? Doesn't have to be any religion attached to it. Um, for me personally, it is that connection to nature, but just connection in general. I noticed that I just feel more inclined to prioritize the connection. It's cozy, it's warm, it's gatherings. We can, as we'll talk about, I imagine we can get pretty wrapped up in the obligation of gatherings. But for me, I just really feel inclined, permissive, whatever, to just allow all that other stuff to go away, be pausing, and really just celebrate connection in and of itself. Um, it's not a secret to anyone, I'm sure, that the modern climate of social gatherings, particularly with family of origin, can be a little contentious if there's differing opinions of society or religion or politics. But what I find valuable is just the ability to get beyond all that, to cut right through it and get to, wow, we're all humans and we can actually find plenty to connect on. It's not an avoidance talking about things. It's, oh, I really see you. I just enjoyed this thing. So we get what we want or need from the connections and we can just leave the rest behind. As much as I love spring and summer, like Amanda referenced, I'm outside and I'm going to notice a lot of things that I want to do, or a lot of things that I need to fix, or a lot of things that need my attention. As much as I enjoy that, the winter is perfectly placed to cause me to slow down and prioritize things that build me up, fill me up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we've mentioned that slowdown, right? Which nature is doing and kind of invites us to do. And hopefully we take advantage of kind of that slowing down. And what do we do when we're more indoors? And right. And even though winter invites us to have that slowdown, we don't always take it. Or December, I think, especially thinking of extra activities and obligations. And it seems like weekends fill up for people and kind of we pack so much in. And just kind of want to get your thoughts on why do you think we struggle to kind of honor that slower rhythm?
I can chime in. I think we often feel that obligation that we've mentioned to do all the things because that's the norm. Um, we are like just constantly go, go, go. If I miss out on this party, like I need to be able to see all the different people that I need to see. I got to fit it in all right now. And maybe there's like a fear of missing out, a little bit of FOMO if you don't do all the things. Um,
Yeah, and that makes me think too, Patrick was saying of like sometimes we value the connection, right? So we want
yes.
that connection piece, but are we sacrificing something else to make sure we get that?
Right. Is there also a little bit of like maybe anticipatory isolation? When January and February come around, there's not much to celebrate, not much to do. So maybe we're cramming in all the social activities because we know there's going to be a period of nothingness, if you will, like for those 2 months where there's not much going on, because then from March and through December we have plenty to do and plenty to experience. But maybe there's like that, like I got to fit it all in because at some point it's going to stop, and then I'm not going to have any social gatherings or maybe not as many opportunities to connect.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to come at it, and additionally from a how did we get here perspective. Um, there's so much pressure to uphold tradition or, you know, do all the things. Maybe we have to invent these stories where we project onto people or perceive that they're going to be disappointed in us if we don't, whatever. Um, there's the pressure of the gifts. There's the pressure of attending everybody's thing. There's the pressure of taking time off or got to get the work done. There's just providing for parents out there, providing the best holiday possible for your kids. And,
Mm.
I think there's a lot of nostalgia that can feel good, but that gets overshadowed by the expectation. And this is really rooted in perfectionism, that fear or avoidance of inadequacy. And, when we really just let ourselves call it out for what it is, um, maybe we realize we don't have to value that one thing or that one place we've done every year for the last 55 years and have to do that. It's beautiful. It had so much meaning, but what would it be like to do what matters right now? What do you feel connected to right now? Or who do you feel connected to? I
Yeah,
think
so
it's
that kind of,
really,
oh, sorry, that kind of
oh,
ties
it's
into
okay.
that prioritizing piece, right? Of like, what do we want to prioritize? And I think sometimes we get caught up in the pace of things and all the doing. And I think, of course, mental and emotional health and overall well-being is something obviously we're promoting and is important. And what do you think kind of those early signs, maybe that someone's kind of moving too fast with their system or their pace is kind of at a pace that maybe isn't great for the system? What might be some of those kind of early warning signs that people might kind of be able to note?
If you're feeling stressed about your calendar, that's a good indication.
Mhm.
If you're struggling to find a place on your calendar to fit that event you were invited to, it's a good indication. Amanda, you could probably speak to this more than I can, but just that rush in your body when you just start to feel like you aren't even here for the things that you're doing. Sometimes we choose to numb that feeling out with alcohol or something else. So I think that's one of the good cues to pay attention to. So are you literally feeling like you're running, like you're just not able to pause or slow down long enough to enjoy what you're doing?
And yeah, you can notice that in your daily like to-do. So if you're so frustrated when you're sitting in traffic because you need to get to the next place, right? Like that is a really good tell to say like maybe you're just doing a little too much or like you can't change it. You can't change the flow of traffic, so you kind of have to just sit with it. If you're feeling frustrated, it means you probably just overloaded yourself and you don't have enough time between things to get to that place. I also notice like maybe a bit of clumsiness. So like if you're trying to do too much, you might be like just not grounded in your body. So you might be like tripping over things or dropping stuff or breaking things. Like that kind of stuff is signals from our body and our nervous system saying we're overloaded. Maybe there's a little bit more mental load, maybe there's a little bit more physical load, or both. Most of the time, it's both. But you can notice those things and just kind of like you feel very untethered or ungrounded to your
Mm.
physical body and to the ground beneath you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like, right, we can see those things like actually in a calendar, right? And where is there space or where is there not space? And then kind of tuning in to body cues, different stress levels. And Amanda, everything you were saying too kind of brought me back to Patrick, you were sharing with us. I'm going to have you say it because I'm probably not going to get right. But the electrical circuit, right? Of like, when are
Mm.
we overloaded in our system? And I mean, I know you're talking about like grounded, right? There needs to be a ground wire. I don't know. Patrick, tell us about that metaphor with the electric circuit.
Yeah, well, so a circuit can only carry the load it's designed to carry, and if we try to put too much on it, it will trip. So what you see in real life of that is if you plug too many things in to an outlet or too many outlets on the same circuit, or you're running, your microwave, your refrigerator, your washing machine all on the same circuit, it will trip the breaker. Breaker trips so that you don't cause a fire. But the deal is that it shuts down. It's too much. It's too much energy. We're doing too much, and it trips. So it just shuts down. That's what we're doing. That's what our nervous system is actually doing. It's saying too much. It could be a shutdown. Another thing to pay attention to, getting back to the cues and tying this in, is resentment. If you notice that you're resenting others, or maybe yourself, or just things that are outside of your control, that's a really good cue that you've overloaded your circuit. Because though shutting down can be one way, there can also be a very forceful, energetic, even aggressive reaction to feeling overloaded. Like, why am I getting invited to all these things? Well, it's just an invitation. That's something we can remind ourselves of is, you know, it's up to us to set boundaries. And
Mm.
it's up to us to either increase the load of the circuit or remove some of the things or don't run them all at once. So just to continue that metaphor, maybe we don't need everything on all at once. We can just
Mm.
prioritize what we need and then do the other thing, and the circuit can cover it quite perfectly, actually.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And that makes me think of self-care, right? We need self-care time and space and to be able to do that. And there's a saying that maybe lots of us have heard of, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So meaning you can't give to others either your time or energy or patience if you haven't taken care of your own needs first. So yeah, I know lots of practices this month on the path. A lot of our Mindful Mondays things are looking at what do we want to prioritize? How do we shift pacing? How do we take care of ourselves, right? So that we can give back into these things that we want to. But yeah, just kind of want to chat about what does filling your cup look like? Do you think kind of in day-to-day practical ways, especially as we get busy, kind of how, I don't know, any thoughts on kind of little doses of how do we fill our cup kind of along the way this month?
I have so many, so many. Um,
Give them all, give them all.
Yeah, but like, so first of all, just kind of want to note on like self-care, it looks different for everybody, and
Mhm.
it's not just kind of what's present in popular media. Like, it's not just going to get your nails, like spending a bunch of money to pamper yourself. It's about taking moments to pause and to really be invested and present in your life. So maybe that's taking 10 minutes in the morning to just like sit and drink your coffee in a quiet space versus like taking your coffee with you on the road and then you're spilling it everywhere and then you end up not even like drinking it because it gets cold and then you end up spending $10 to get a coffee down the street, right? So like it's about just taking those moments to really like just slow down. And I'm talking about the coffee thing because I do this all the time. I like carry it from room to room to room and I never end up drinking it and it gets cold. And then I'm like, oh, I still want coffee because I'm tired. Right. So it's maybe just slowing that moment down to breathe, to be in your body, to be in the moment, not rushing to the next thing and just giving yourself that time to be invested. So maybe that's going for a walk. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's, just turning off your devices a couple hours before bed and being in your home space and your home environment with your pets, your family, whoever you are sharing space with or with yourself. Um, there's plenty of things, and I'm sure that Patrick has some more options too.
So many, yeah. We could do a whole separate hour-long talk on that. And I think, just want to piggyback off of your point. Self-care can become overwhelming in and of itself, right? So it's being selective and meaningful what you're choosing.
Mm.
I think the New York Times must have known we were going to talk today because it sent me a headline of inviting people to make a to don't list. And I think that's a really big piece of, particularly with the topic we're talking about today, is don't be afraid to say no. You're not, you don't have to be mean about it. You're just being selective. And, consider um, in neuroscience, we know factually that multitasking is a myth in the way that we try to live up to it. Attention span, focus, if you will, can only, it's a finite amount. So the more things we try to cram into the same thing, the smaller each piece of us is in each of those things. So if we're allowing ourselves to say no or to be honest with, gosh, I just don't really have the capacity, you actually have more of yourself to show up in the things that you want to do or that have priority in or more meaning toward.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I think that again, that prioritizing, um, we can fill our cup through prioritizing, right? When we go into events or go into things of like, okay, what's I don't want to say goal, but what am I prioritizing here, right? Am I prioritizing the joy, the connection with others? What is it? And kind of putting that in the forefront of how we engage in things, how we approach things. That in itself is filling our cup, right? We're looking
Mhm.
for, hey, this we're prioritizing the feeling we want or the need we want, and then kind of seeking that, right, to fill our cup in those situations. So I think that's another way too, right? As well as self-care, but kind of putting that, okay, what am I prioritizing in the forefront? Um, yeah, and I know kind of our one of our guiding questions this month on the path is how do you want to feel, right? Kind of putting that as a prioritize. And again, I think lots of activities that we're helping people engage in this month will kind of help people connect with that answer for themselves. But I kind of want to just get your all's thoughts on why the feeling itself matters, right? So from a neuroscience point or a mind-body perspective, the feeling is what our brain really remembers. So yeah, just want to see if you all can speak to that a little more, and kind of why that's important for us to do.
Yeah, I would just start by asking anybody a question. Tell me, or what are all the things you got for your holiday gifts last year, much less 5 years ago? Who was there? Who was at the gathering? How many gatherings did you go to? What did everybody think of that dish you spent 6 hours preparing for and making? Or do you remember how you felt when you presented the dish? Do you remember how you felt when you were with people? Do you remember how you felt at that gathering that you did choose to go to? Do you remember how you felt at all the gatherings because you chose to do too many? Maybe you remember that feeling. We tend to remember how we felt, and these are emotional memories. We talk about it a lot in trauma work, but this is also just everyday life. We tend to remember how we felt, and memories are not as accurate as we want to give them credit for. So our feeling influences the way we pull that memory and then let it go, file it away. It's not exactly how it works, but how we release it and file it away for next time. So the feeling is actually quite important.
Yeah, and the body will remember maybe more than our mind will. So like the memory might not be super reliable, but when we get those inner sensations that remind us of that time or that memory, our body is going to kind of eh, facilitate the same amount of a reaction. So like if you felt this overwhelming amount of gratitude, you might feel really spacious and light in your body. If you felt like shame or like stress or whatever, you might feel really tight in your body. So, kind of noticing how you're feeling when you're thinking about the memory can help maybe be a little bit more reliable based on what the body is telling you. And that's a really huge practice to become aware of what the body is communicating. But there's lots of practices, and mindfulness is key to learning what the body is communicating to you.
Yeah, well said, both of you. Thank you. Yeah, so I think as people kind of this month take some time to decide what they want to prioritize, right, what feeling they want to prioritize, um, just kind of thinking ahead, any kind of barriers that you may foresee or any things that you feel like kind of get in the way of people giving themselves permission to prioritize that feeling?
Yeah, obligation, like we've talked about. Um, Sometimes, and projection, what we are supposed to feel. I think we get really overly attached to joy. Um,
Mm.
Sometimes we get on our own way of experiencing it because we try to do too much to chase it. What if we just, again, stay present, accept things as they are, and prioritize what we want, what we need? Maybe joy is a experience you want to prioritize. Maybe that comes from I want to feel connection. I want to feel openness, freedom, peace. So anyway, I think that's something to keep in mind. I think that's a barrier. Is with the best of intentions, we take on too much even to feel something.
I also think sometimes it can be like potentially there might be a sense of guilt or shame for prioritizing ourselves during the holidays when we feel like we're supposed to be giving and putting out and like just being and connecting with others, which is important, but we also have to take that time to, again, fill our cup. And then there's also just like we're conditioned to work, 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 go, 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 do, 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 be productive, be, doing all of the things, be really extravagant in that way. So, um, and that kind of limits our ability to honor ourselves and honor our needs before everything else. Like if you have a deadline at the end of Q4 that you have to get to, like you end up doing more work throughout the holidays than spending time with your family or the people that you want to connect with. So you prioritize getting your work deadlines done versus your connections, your what you really want, what you really value. And work is important, right? We need to work to live in this world, and it's just about kind of like, again, prioritizing, slowing down, seeing what you can shift in your schedule to create a little bit more space for yourself to do things on a more balanced level.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, we've throughout our time together today talked about a variety of ways, right? Of some kind of simple, hopefully concrete ways to kind of do these things. But just kind of if you, excuse me, could kind of simmer it down to maybe like one kind of simple shift that maybe people could do to help honor their pace or prioritize their feeling. Um, Anything kind of stand out in your mind as like, ooh, this would be kind of a helpful shift that people could try? Realize that's a big question, but anything popping up for you all?
I've got one thing that I feel like is the essence of it all is just about the pause.
Mm.
Just taking a moment to pause and sense your breath, feel your feet on the ground, look and see what you're surrounded by in your environment. Notice how your breath is, how your mind is, thinking about, okay, am I feeling really exhausted right now? How can I kind of give myself a little bit of a boost that's not necessarily like maybe I just need to go stand outside and like get some fresh air for a minute. Or if I'm feeling really like anxious and I've got like a lot to do and feeling really all over the place and scattered, I can kind of take a moment to just like slow down, maybe do a deeper breath work practice or just like put your devices away for a few minutes. The pause is where we're able to get all of the information and what we need, what's going on in our inner terrain, in our inner world, so that we can then take action, take whatever filling cup practices we need to do to then go back into the more integrated outer world.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And I think, yeah, not just pause, not just like, oh, okay, let me sit and maybe look at my phone, right? Like an intentional pause. It's like, huh, okay, let me, like you said, kind of recenter with myself, kind of like that, like, let me feel my feet on the ground. Let me kind of tune in and ask
Yes,
maybe that question, right? Of like, how do I want to feel? Or like, what do I need? So, right,
it
that how that little moment of self-care too, right? Like asking ourselves what we need, what we want. And is there a way to kind of give us our like a little dose of that, right? Like I'm just going to go look at a tree. I'm just going to breathe for a few minutes and prioritizing really what's important. So helping kind of shift our pace
is.
to have that pause and just kind of reflect to yeah, then inform like, okay, what do I do next?
Yeah. And oftentimes what I do is if I'm not able to like go outside or go do something big is just close your eyes and maybe put a hand on your chest and breathe for a few moments and try to kind of even have a dialogue with your body or your mind saying like what do I need right now? Or even you can use like, different language like what do you need body or what do you need mind to kind of get through this next couple of hours or to go to this next event or to make this decision or whatever it is that you're approaching that you're feeling maybe overwhelmed by.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
I would say, very specifically before you go into any single event, right? Whether it's a meeting, whether it's the start of your workday or a holiday event, or even when you get home. I tell a lot of my clients this little nugget is is utilize the pause. Amanda's right. That's the nothing else happens if we don't interrupt all the automatic stuff we've been conditioned to do, and we can just mindlessly blow through it all. Um, so within the pause, let yourself be aware if you have any stories of expectations. What am I holding on am I attached to use the mindfulness language, to a particular outcome? Am I attached to something happening? Am I attached to this feeling? And I am hell bent to get this feeling no matter what. Just, you know, maybe let yourself go through some of the practices Amanda talked about and come back to that pinpoint of, okay, well, I'd like to prioritize, not insist upon feeling whatever. And that it's a compass. It helps you know, like, okay, if I'm getting sucked into a conversation or too many things or whatever it might be, and that's pulling me away from that feeling I want to prioritize, I do have agency. I can shift. I can, by, pausing before I even walk in there. I'm resetting my body, I'm resetting my mind, I'm aware of what I want to walk into, and I know I can shift. Talk to someone else, I can do something else, I can take a breath, I can go to the bathroom. Hopefully nobody's gonna, get on your case for stepping out and going to the bathroom. Even if you don't need to go to the bathroom, just go into the bathroom. So being aware of that story that you're carrying, allow yourself to release it and come back into, okay, what am I? What am I prioritizing? And I think Amanda said it earlier. There's no shame or guilt in prioritizing what you need, because, as Megan, you said, you can't we're not functioning very well with an empty cup. So everybody wants you to fill your cup so that you can be present.
Yeah. Yeah. And as people, go on this journey throughout this month, and different practices to help kind of tune in to, okay, how am I feeling? How do I want to feel? What do I want to prioritize? Right. Giving ourselves permission to make space for that, to honor. It can be helpful too, as we find what we want to connect with, or kind of what that feeling is, what our pace feels good, what are we prioritizing? To remind ourselves of that, right? Maybe not a concrete, it has to look like this way, like you were saying, Patrick, but kind of like putting that out there, like that compass of, if it's, I want connection, maybe even like a sticky note on our mirror, right? Of like connection to remind of that, or maybe even changing our phone screensaver to say connection, or an image that reminds us of that, something that we're kind of seeing that kind of keeps putting our awareness and attention to, like, yes, that's where I'm going, right? That's what I want to prioritize. Kind of keeping that in the forefront, right, of our mind, because I know things get busy and we forget things, and other things come up. So I think maybe just having something like that to kind of keep pulling us back to, like, yeah, that's what I'm really feeling connected with this month. That's what I want to kind of go toward. So yeah, as we kind of wrap up, and kind of on that note, curious if there's one word or feeling that you guys have that you're going to carry with you into this season.
I have two words, but they kind of go into the same thing a little bit. So I would say I'm prioritizing feeling embodied and aligned this season.
Mhm.
I have a mantra, if you will, of just pace yourself.
Mm.
That's it. Because the rest, I don't have to carry anything else of remembering to do or feel anything. It's just pace yourself. The
Yeah.
subcategory there is trust yourself, but the rest will come.
Yeah. Yeah. And mine is prioritizing connection, meaningful connection.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both for this conversation. And as we move into the rest of the season, I hope we all remember just to slow down and honor our pace and choose how we truly want to feel. All right. Take good care of yourselves.